with all the bits, juice with all the bits, it's a podcast.
Hi everyone, I'm Meg and welcome to the first ever episode of Juice with all the bits. So as I said, I'm Meg and I'm the digital marketing exec here at the Juice Academy. If you don't know what the Juice Academy is, we are an apprenticeship provider and deliver the Content Creator Level 3 program. So teaching people all about skills in the digital industry, creating content for social media management, all things creative and fun. So I started the apprenticeship in August 2020 and I was learning skills in social media, helping to do the social media for the Juice Academy. And now I'm their digital marketing exec doing this full time, which is super exciting. I'm here today with Daniel, who is a current apprentice on cohort 37.
I'm on cohort 37, That's right, absolutely. Hello everybody, it's lovely to be here, thanks for having me, Meg. I am currently completing the level 3 content creator apprenticeship at an employer called Standby Productions.
Mm-hmm.
They're a video production company, and I actually kind of oversee all of their marketing independently. It's super exciting. Prior to this, kind of after finishing my GCSEs, I actually did an apprenticeship in business admin in recruitment. After kind of trying out around 2 years in that space, it wasn't necessarily my passion. So now I've moved on to doing something much more creative here at Juice. Super fun.
Amazing. So this podcast is all about apprenticeships, everything apprenticeships, and basically showing what we do here at the Juice Academy and showcasing how valuable it is to do an apprenticeship. So if you're a potential candidate or an employer, you better get listening. So each episode, we're going to have an apprentice highlight just to showcase the amazing things that our apprentices are doing here at the Juice Academy. And today we're actually breaking the rules and we're going to have 2 apprentice highlights for our first ever podcast. And our apprentice highlights go to Tahira Poswell and Krish Singh. So the reason we are highlighting these 2 amazing apprentices is because they've recently been shortlisted for a Made in Manchester award, which is incredible thing.
Yeah, wow.
So massive well done and best of luck for February when the awards are.
Good luck, guys. Shout out to you.
Amazing. So introducing our first topic. So our first topic for this podcast is all about myth busting. So we think it's really important to bust those stereotypes because you hear them quite a lot, and often, like for me, at schools and things, even like with other employers, there are still kind of a stigma sometimes surrounding apprenticeship. So we're here to break those myths today.
Let's do it. I'm so excited.
So our first myth of today is apprenticeships are for dumb people.
Ouch.
I know, that hurts. So for me, I'd definitely like to say that they are not for dumb people. I actually went to university and a lot of the apprentices have been to university. So straight away, no, they're not dumb. A lot of them have done very well at school, in fact. You need to have, depending on each apprenticeship, but for our case, you need to have your maths and English GCSE. You need to have those grades in order to do the apprenticeship. But yeah, I went to university and I got a good grade, got a degree, but I decided to do the apprenticeship as a way to develop my skills. So it's not for dumb people, as we've said in this statement. It's for people who want to build a career and learn new skills and just develop, which I think is amazing. So as part of my job, I get to have the opportunity to go to different schools and colleges, which is super exciting. And I was talking to a parent of a potential candidate, I suppose, but she was saying how her daughter had gone to university and went to do a gap year and decided that she didn't want to go back to university. And her mum said, she said to me, I don't want my daughter to do an apprenticeship because she was an A-star student. Yeah, so it was almost like she was straight away saying because she was an A-star student, she was too clever to do an apprenticeship, which is not the case. And I was able to break that myth straight away to her and say, look, a lot of the apprentices, they are A-star students, or they've done very well at school and college, or they've gone to university, and they've decided to do the apprenticeship as a way to build a career. And then now, after their apprenticeship, they're doing so well in the industry, and they're maybe like managers, or some of them have come back to us to have their own apprentice. So they've done incredibly well, and it's definitely not for dumb people.
No, definitely, Meg. I think you've said quite a lot of it. You know, it really is. Apprenticeships are kind of offer you industry experience, and that is so incredibly valuable. You know, that is something that employers really look at. Is kind of your experience that you've got. You know, also, you know, something to kind of remember as well is there's no necessarily experience required, so all that training will be provided to you. And on that point, you know, you actually are continuing to learn.
Yeah.
So for that mom in that example, you know, little did she know that her child would if she would have sort of pursued an apprenticeship, would have continued to kind of learn as well, plus get paid too and earn money as
Amazing.
well. So it's really a trustworthy and a worthwhile path, I think. Apprenticeships, like you said, can lead you down kind of per career paths to like managerial positions and things. So definitely.
So moving on to myth number 2, we've got university is more valuable than apprenticeships. Now this is a really interesting one for me because, as I've mentioned previously, I have been to university, so I've got that experience, but I've also done an apprenticeship, so I've kind of got a view on both sort of pathways. And I'm someone who actually, I really did enjoy my university experience. I gained a lot of transferable skills. It was my first time experiencing a bit of independence, and I did really enjoy it. I was doing a very artsy degree, and that helped. But the issue that I had was when it came to finishing my degree, it was made extra difficult because it was during COVID. It was in the dreaded 2020 year. But I was looking for jobs, and they were all saying you need to have a year's experience. Even if they wanted you to have a degree, they still wanted you to have a year's plus experience, and I just didn't have that. So to me, the apprenticeship route was the perfect way to go down. And automatically, you do maybe a 13 to 15 month apprenticeship, and once you finish that, you've already got 13 to 15 months of experience, which to me is what makes it such a valuable thing, because that is what employers want, and it makes you such an employable person once you finish your apprenticeship. So if you are wanting to move to a different company or later down the line, you can do that because you've got such a vast amount of experience that came with getting the qualification as well.
Definitely, Meg. You know, one interesting thing for me about this, I guess I kind of can't say too much on it as I haven't been to university myself, but what I can kind of say, and one thing I've kind of picked up on is, one thing I've not done is collected a bunch of debt by going to uni.
Yeah, don't rub it in.
No, I'm not at all. But, you know, I think that's definitely something to consider, that, you know, apprenticeships, it's quite the polar opposite, where you actually earn whilst you're learning a qualification. Here at Juice, we offer up to level, with the content producer level 3, but apprenticeships in general go up to all the way to level 7, which is the equivalent of a master's degree. You know, so you would essentially be getting your degree for free, and you are kind of earning as well. So it's a pretty good deal, I think.
Definitely, yeah, it's a great way to. Well, it's the famous phrase for apprenticeships: you earn while you learn. So, whereas rather than paying thousands and thousands to get a degree, you're actually getting paid to learn and get experience, which I think the experience is the massive key to getting the job.
Definitely, you know, I think it's kind of the point we're making here isn't that one is better than the other. Kind of it's that it's up to kind of the individual, what they kind of want to do personally and what their needs are, and tailoring it that, and also just making it more known that there's different pathways to get to the same place, or different places, but that there's just different ways of going about things, and understanding the true value of each of those different ways of doing things. This is kind of what we're doing today.
Definitely, yeah. I think it's really important to note that obviously it's so dependent on what you want to do and what experiences you want to have. I mean, I know there are career paths out there where you do have to have a degree, but I've seen that from a close friend who she had to do a degree in like biomedical science, and she has to have that theoretical knowledge to get into the industry that she wants to get into, but she couldn't find experience, and every other job was wanting her to have experience along with a degree, and she's in this endless cycle of like she's struggling to get experience in order to get a job because the job requires her to have like a year's experience, which she doesn't have. And so it's kind of it's sad that she's kind of stuck in this cycle at the moment. But I think that's what the fantastic thing about apprenticeships is, that you can earn and you can get that experience as well.
Definitely. I think off the back of that, Meg, it's really interesting because that's why, like yourself, a lot of people who have gone through the Juice Academy and have got their apprenticeship have got degrees as well. You know,
Yeah.
that's why, because I feel like a lot of other individuals might find themselves in the same position.
Definitely. Right, let's swiftly move on to the myth number 3. So we've got apprenticeships are only for plumbers and hairdressers.
Wrong. Doesn't sound right. I don't think that's what we're doing here today.
Definitely not.
Certainly, you know, I think you kind of touched on this earlier that, for example, the example of your friend who kind of had to start bio and all that sciencey stuff.
Yeah.
You know, apprenticeships are definitely now increasing in terms of the different scope of industries that they cover. That is widening 100%. You know, when I first started looking for apprenticeships, actually for the first apprenticeship that I did kind of previously a couple of years ago, you know, I came across apprenticeships that were like in dentistry or kind of that route, which obviously is a lot more perhaps theory focused as well. So, you know, it's definitely widening. Speaking of which, you know, content creation wasn't always a thing with apprenticeships, but now it is.
Exactly. I mean, every time I've gone to schools and colleges to talk about what we do here at the Juice Academy, I've had so many students say, I didn't realise you could do this as a job. I didn't realise you could do social media, content creation as a career. And I think it's so important to push those different avenues out there. And I mean, as you can see here at the Juice Academy, we do content creation, social media, digital marketing, that side of things. So if you are interested in doing a content creation apprenticeship, then please do apply. We're actually recruiting for January for our 38th cohort. So it's the perfect chance to apply right now. So head over to our website, www.juiceacademy.co.uk, and head to the Apprentices tab for more information.
Ding.
Little plug there. You've got to do it.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Right, so number 4. Apprentices are in meaningless positions.
Wrong.
No, it is just not the case. I think it is such a stereotype, that people think that you are there to do the work that nobody wants to do, or that you're there to constantly make cups of tea.
Right.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, make the odd cup of tea for someone.
Right.
It kind of gives you a little bonus point. But you're not there to purely just make brews and stuff for people. You are such a valuable member, just as much as any other member in the company.
I think, you know, you at the end of the day, you are doing an apprenticeship, but you have been hired as an employee in that business.
100%. Yeah, I think it's just so important to remember that you will be involved in, like, directly with the tasks. So for our case, I know that we are fully involved with, like, creating social media and getting it out there, and it's such a rewarding experience because you can look back and go, I did that.
No, definitely. I think that's really cool when you have that sense of kind of achievement after working on something. I mean, for me personally, it's quite interesting. I use myself as an example here. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, currently at Standby Productions, where I work for my apprenticeship, they kind of focus on all things video production and producing films. And for those guys, I kind of oversee their entire marketing. So, you know, I'm the only person, seeing as it's a smaller company, who kind of looks after that. So my scope of responsibility happens to be quite big, but that's what I think is also really interesting about apprenticeships, is that, you know, for example, some of my fellow apprentices on my current cohort, you know, their ranges of responsibility can, you know, change and vary, because maybe they are going into a company where they do have an established marketing team with several members of in there. So it can vary, but, you know, it definitely isn't meaningless or pointless, and you won't just be making cups of tea.
Definitely. So the next myth: apprenticeships are for only 16 to 18-year-olds. Well, I can break this one straight away, because when I started the apprenticeship, I was 21 and you're 20.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually had quite a funny story about this. So I had a mum call me just to ask about the apprenticeship for her daughter. And she said, why do you recruit for January, April, October? Because everyone's going to be at school or college. And so I explained that actually you can be above 18 and do the apprenticeship. So people apply after university, or they apply just to change a career and job. So, we have a wide range of different apprentices. And a lot of our apprentices on our course are in their 20s. So straight away she was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes more sense. So obviously if they want to apply, school and college students, then they'd apply around the July time. It would be suit them more. But yeah, it's quite interesting that she just automatically assumed it was for 16 to 18-year-olds.
Definitely, but I think, like you said, after you explained it, it kind of made sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think it is quite mad when you put it that way, that, you know, I'm cohort 37, Juice Academy have been recruiting every quarter since 2013.
Yeah, about that.
So yeah, that's absolutely mad, isn't it? But, you know, in terms of my own experience with this, like for my first apprenticeship that I did, I was within that bracket, but now for my one with Juice, obviously I'm 20, like you said. But it was really interesting. Last week I went along to an opportunity that the Juice Academy offered to cover social media for a company called Elevate. They kind of sponsored the event that took place. There was a live DJ battle between Andy Burnham and Steve Rotherham.
It looked amazing.
It was really fun. It's quite random, two mayors just doing a DJ battle. It was for a really good cause, kind of for homelessness and everything like that. But as a part of that, I actually worked with another apprentice who I'd not met before. And she actually told me that, you know, she was a mature apprentice, just 28. And, you know, it just goes to show it doesn't stop you. It's all the same. You can do the process exactly the same. So if you maybe are somebody who is outside of the bracket, don't be discouraged by the fact that, you know, it's starting at 16 at all, because people from all walks of life can get it. Yeah.
Definitely, I think that's the beautiful thing about it, because you can meet people from different age groups and who have different experiences in life. And I think if you go to school or college, you are surrounded by people who are the same age as you, like in your year. Whereas if in a class here, you are surrounded by people who are all different ages. You could be 16 working with someone who's like 20, or you could be 21 working with someone who is 28 or 30, and they've got different experiences, they've got different backgrounds, and I think that is an incredible thing and really nice to have that opportunity to be surrounded by so many different types of people.
Definitely.
So, moving on to our very, very last myth to bust today. So, we've got apprentices are doing slavery, which I'm very aware.
What? I feel like we should be telling somebody about this, if that's true.
It is a very sort of abrupt phrase, this one, but I think it's really important to note, because we've both heard people say this.
Absolutely.
Like, I've definitely had experience where someone has said, I wouldn't even wake up for that amount. Like, and I find it crazy, like, people have such quite a negative view on it, whereas in reality, it is not like this at all.
No, not at all, you know. Like we've said, you know, in terms of the salaries for this particular apprenticeship, you know, it starts at 12k as a minimum, but in some cases that may be higher. And then naturally after completion of your apprenticeship, your wage will go up to minimum level anyway. Like I said earlier, here at Juice, we're doing level 3 content creation, but in general, apprenticeships go up to level 7, and those apprenticeships that are equivalent of degrees typically start at a much more attractive sort of starting salary. But even so, you know, if salary is something that you care about, just think to consider that, you know, after you complete your apprenticeship, you are already kind of settled in the workplace, and you know, you could maybe work out hopefully a pay rise that you're happy with upon completion with your employer as well. So, you know, it's not kind of you're going to be stuck with this salary for the rest of your life at all. In fact, in a lot of cases, it can give you a massive head start. You know, what's really interesting actually, Meg, is when I was doing my research for applying to the Juice Academy, I came across this live stream that you yourself was in actually, with a couple of the other graduates, and just talking about your experience. And one of the other graduates who were speaking about it kind of said that, you know, they were really happy that they'd been on the apprenticeship and they'd gone to uni as well, but they kind of said, imagine if I started this apprenticeship before I went to university, where I would be now. And I think that kind of puts it into perspective in terms of how much ahead it can put you. Not that that matters, because it's not a race at all, but you know, it really is something to consider, that, you know, after you complete your apprenticeship, you've started a career, and you can kind of go up that ladder.
I think, like, personally, I feel so lucky to be able to be in a position to kind of break these myths as well, especially ones like these that have kind of like an abrupt, harsh kind of element to it, saying like apprentices are doing slavery. I think it's so nice to be able to kind of, the fact that we've gone through it ourselves, we know what the reality of it is and how valuable they are, and how much you can sort of gain experience and get into a career. Because I think ultimately for everyone, whatever pathway you take, the end goal is to be in a career that you want to be in. And so apprenticeships are such a great way to get in there like quickly and build up your skills. And
certainly, you know, Meg, I think what's really important actually that's just kind of come to me as you were kind of talking about that there's no experience required. So it's not as if you're, you know, doing an apprenticeship on perhaps a lower wage or seemingly a lower wage, and you're expected to go in and know how to do everything by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Literally, you're getting trained on everything and you have to have zero experience. I think that's why, apprenticeships have such a beautiful way of facilitating a person's entry into a new industry.
Yeah, and it's so rewarding as well because most of the time you don't have any experience. Like, I had no experience other than like doing personal content for sort of my own channels and to kind of promote myself as a musician when I was at uni. I had no experience. So being able to see how much I've progressed throughout learning and doing the apprenticeship, seeing the skills that I've learned and that I'm using on a regular basis now, I feel like is that extra bit rewarding.
No, definitely, completely agree with that. And, what is kind of, I think, relevant, again, to bring up on this particular one, is that you are avoiding a bunch of debt. So that's something to consider, is that, you, in fact, are earning money whilst you're learning, whereas, if perhaps you went on to do a degree, you would be getting that side. So, yeah, we're not slaves, guys. We're doing jobs and we're getting education, too.
100%. So that wraps up our last myth to bust. So a few little key takeaways from what we've just discussed. You are not done if you do an apprenticeship. So you're actually starting a career, which is a fantastic thing. Apprenticeships don't exclude what you want to do. There are so many different ones out there, so you can tailor it to what you're interested in, whether that is theatre, arts, or whether it's more IT or even like healthcare, that side of things. You're not too old. You can start a career in a different industry if you want to, and if that will make you happy. And doing an apprenticeship is a worthwhile path for you to further your education and gain work experience. And on that note, if you are wanting to gain more experience in content creation and digital marketing, please do head over to our website. It'll be below as well, but it's juiceacademy.co.uk, and head over to the Apprentices tab to find out lots of information and to also apply, especially for our January cohort, because we're recruiting now. And also on the flip side, if you're an employer listening to this, please head over to the website and go to the employers tab or get in touch with one of the Juice Academy members and maybe consider hiring an apprentice.
Certainly. I'd just like to say some final goodbyes. Thank you very much for having me on the podcast today, Mag. It's been really, really lovely. And just one final last word of advice, I guess, or just thoughts to any future apprentices or employers out there. If you are thinking of doing an apprenticeship, if you've got any doubts, honestly, I hope what we've said today resonates with you and that you can take away that, if it's something that you feel good about and passionate about, freaking go for it. You might have a lot of fun and you never know what doors it can open for you. And if you're an employer, get an apprentice.
Yes.
Seriously, you can train up a person to be an absolute weapon of an expert in whatever area you would like them to be in. So there's some real value to be had from both sides.
100%. Now, thank you so much for listening to the first ever episode of Juice with All the Bits. Hope you've enjoyed it. And see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Oh my God! We did it!
We did it.